This summer, we'll be celebrating our 4th birthday at the Green Finance Institute. And in that period of time, we're immensely proud of the work that we've done, working at the nexus of the public and private sectors. We've established ourselves as the principal forum in the UK and increasingly in Europe for innovation in green finance. So what we actually do is we work with the leaders in across financial services to not only think about the enabling policy, but to look at the facilitating financial mechanisms that are also needed in order for us to start channeling global capital towards local solutions, both in the UK, increasingly across Europe, and also in some of the emerging markets that we focus on as well. Corporate leadership is already in a very different place with regards to the sustainability agenda than it was a few years ago. There's this growing realization of how a changing physical climate presents genuine transition risk. And whilst the transformation of our economy does present an enormous investment opportunity, it isn't straightforward, and it will require a different type of leadership and approach. This is a classic example of what got us here may not get us there. To elaborate further, firstly, climate is a nascent area, and so it's really less structured and it's more information deficient than other sectors. So rather than trying to attempt to replicate the very precise analytical projections that are characteristics of more established business areas, strategy in this area, particularly when we're looking at the financial institutions, it's going to need to take a far more entrepreneurial flavor. And it's also going to need a far more collaborative approach, one that requires working more closely with stakeholders that perhaps haven't played such a key role in business strategy and execution previously. So it's not just about working with central government, but local governments as well. It's about really working with the scientists and academics from first principles, and also the civil society groups, and even representatives of indigenous peoples groups. The list is a really, really long one, and it's going to require an openness and a radical form of collaboration that today's leaders really need to embrace. I'm really glad that we phrased this question to be talking about hope. It brings to mind the words of Anne-Marie Lovins, a total hero of mine, the physicist and climate pioneer. He talks about the importance of not looking at the sustainability agenda as either an optimist or a pessimist, but of looking at it through the lens of applied hope, which he defines as things can get better, but you have to make them so. It's very much putting the agency on all of us to create the changes that we want to see. So what does make me hopeful as I look forward to the second half of 2023? Well, one thing is definitely the emergence and the importance of nature as part of the sustainability agenda. In particular, how are we going to channel more capital towards not just nature conservation, but nature-based solutions? How do we actually counter the impacts of the depleting natural environment and loss of biodiversity? It's a real challenge, but I think one real high point will be the launch of the TNFD framework in New York in September. Having co-chaired the launch of the TNFD 18 months ago and hosted the secretariat for the project, we're really excited that this initial milestone will be reached in September, and we are very much looking forward to the market taking up the recommendations in that framework and really making nature the board level discussion that climate has become. And then the other thing that we're talking a lot about now is adaptation. Our chair at the GFI is obviously working very closely with the Mayor of London to make sure that London is prepared and resilient for the physical climate change and its impacts. So increasingly looking at how we channel capital towards adaptation as well as mitigation. It's a topic that's been neglected, and I'm really pleased to see that this is starting to be a part of the conversations with both financial institutions and corporates. I think we're all hoping to hear that the longer term commitments and board level awareness of sustainability issues are starting to turn into executable plans. The agenda really should be moving beyond compliance and risk mitigation, and even beyond target setting and reporting, towards making some organizational and process developments to align with those targets. We really need to start seeing the evidence of transformation from both corporates and financial institutions, where sustainability strategy is starting to drive product and process innovation, and is starting to genuinely underpin revenue growth as well as cost plans. And what I really hope the leaders will be able to share with us, the real pioneers, is how sustainability and climate considerations are starting to provide the real advantages of competitive differentiation, where the business model, the consumer and employee engagement, they're all starting to benefit from sustainability considerations to achieve competitive advantage and commercial gain. Those are the conversations we need to be sharing, and I'm very grateful to Reuters for facilitating them.